Welcome back, everybody. HSC Podcast 66. I think we're at 66.
Wow.
Getting up there. Got Big Box Steve on the mic, Big Smooth there. And today we got a great podcast for you. Don't forget to subscribe and like. I appreciate the comments and all the listens on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. And if you're watching us YouTube, again, hit that notification bell. You see our new ones. And I'm without the beard. It's a little weird. A little weird. No beard on Big Buck Steve. And then the spider bite's gotten better too. So
Yeah, that's good. You got that wedding.
well, yeah, I did shave for the wedding, but I don't know. And this is a little off topic, but maybe you're listening, or dude, if you ever had to drain a spider bite, it's bad.
No, never had to do that. That sounds gross.
Yeah, well, it like swelled up so bad up in my eye, and it like hardened, and like it was hard.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, I can't just like let it keep swelling and get hard. So I had to stick a needle in there. And then like it just oozed out. It was disgusting, dude. It was like, and it hurt like a son of a gun for a long time. So you guys are wondering what's going on in my face again. Still a spider bite. All right. Well, we're gonna jump into podcast today. We got some good topics, but before we just jump in, real quick, don't want to spend a bunch of time on it. Denver Nuggets win the NBA championship in five. Like I think we all said, like we all talked about winning in five. Um, what do you feel about it? You know what?
Well, they were the best team all year. Even though they had an easier way to get to the playoffs, they didn't have to face really any top seeds, but they were the best team, so they deserved it. It's kind of cool to see the Nuggets win a championship, first ever.
Yeah, right. I mean that's one of the coolest parts. I think Jokic winning the championship helps a lot.
Oh, no, because D-back Skip Bayless already today was saying how Embiid is still better than him.
Right, right. The guy who averaged a triple double throughout the playoffs and won the championship and multiple time MVP, should have won another one.
Yeah.
Uh, I just don't think Miami had enough for them. I think Denver is too solid of a team. But Jokic every game came to play. I mean, even Butler, who plays better in the playoffs than he normally does, you know.
He was hurt and he wasn't he willed them to the finals, and I think he just ran out of gas.
Yeah. Which it's amazing that Jokic never runs out of gas. This dude plays every game, all minutes. And man, and I've heard multiple, you know what's funny is you hear like Skip Bayless and like JJ Redick and like Kendrick Perkins who are and Stephen A. Smith. Like these are the normal faces right now on ESPN, right? You see them all the time. And they got all kinds of things to say, right? Like about Embiid and about Jokic and all these things. But then you hear guys like Tracy McGrady, Michael Jordan, you know, Kevin Garnett, like all these old school players, like Jokic is the best player in the world right now.
Right.
So who am I going to listen to? Am I listen to T Mac? I'm going to listen to Stephen A. Smith.
Right. Exactly. Because it's mostly, it's become, it's just the world of clicks. So how do you get clicks? You can't just say Jokic is the best. You got to
Right.
make a ridiculous statement to be like, ooh, so people tune in.
Right.
And that's the issue. And that's the problem is it's like, like ESPN and stuff, they don't report anymore. They just try to make up content.
Yeah,
So
they're
you're like,
the CNN of sports.
yeah. They like, yeah, the whole like how long do we have to hear about Aaron Rodgers? Or, it's like they drag drama and that's what they want.
I mean, the whole Lamar Jackson thing too. Like they did
Mhm.
that for so long, and like trying to like bring him down for wanting to be his own agent and things like that. And
Well, yeah, they do that, and then later they're like, "Oh, the NFL's racist because they're not going to sign Lamar
right,
Jackson,"
right.
and then it's like, make up your mind, you people. It's like, come on.
I mean, we won't talk too much NBA because we got some good topics tonight, but I'm happy to see Denver win it. I'm happy that Jokic got the championship. So I think he deserves it. I think he's played better than anybody else over the last 3 years. And he deserves a championship and he deserves the respect. So
Well, and it's funny too is remember the center is back because you've got Jokic and Embiid who've been the MVP the last 3 years. Remember how the whole story
right, right.
narrative was it's the 80s and 90s, the center was the big thing. Now we don't need a center. Well, look, you
Look
might
what
need
happens when,
something.
when you have a great center.
Yeah,
And Jokic, even though he gets a lot of assists, like he's still a true center.
right.
Physically, the way he plays, there, I mean, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I used to love the way Shaq passed the ball. I think Jokic is probably a little bit better. He takes a little more chances on his passes, but I think they pass similar. So I don't think there's anything wrong with I think Jokic plays a true center game.
Hmm. And it opens up the whole court when
Right.
you have a true center. You can't guard one on one. You have to double.
I mean, but the shooting the threes like he does, it's nuts. Not because it's bad. It's because dude hits so many threes with people in
Right.
his face and off one foot, and he's just a true shooter. So it's fun to watch him, and I'm glad they won. So that wraps up the NBA season. Gets us more closer to the NFL. Still a few months away. But we did recently have the draft, so we're going to talk about rookies. We didn't talk. We talked about the draft. We talked about what we did our draft picks. But now that we see, where everybody's gone and they've had a little bit of OTAs and mini camps, what's we'll talk about offense, talk about defense. What's one rookie that you think is going to break out, or people should watch, or who do you have your eye on offensively?
I'm very boring with mine, and that's going to be Bryce Young. Think he's going to come in right away, start for the Panthers. Frank Reich is there. The NFC South is not right now. It's the Saints to win, but the Panthers are there. I just feel like if Bryce Young can come in and play well, he's going to easily win the rookie of the year.
Yeah, that's hard to argue with because I think as much as people don't want to believe he's the prototypical NFL quarterback, like he's in the best situation.
Right.
If you look at everybody, and I think, Bryce Young is probably easiest pick here. And I would normally pick him, and I'm not going to pick him because you just did. And so I'm going to go with Bijan Robinson. The reason I go with Bijan Robinson is because I think as the season progresses, he's going to show what he's capable of. And I think he'll split carries early in the season, but I think that will change later in the season to him getting more of the carries.
Yeah.
And it'll be hard for him to catch Bryce Young as the rookie of the year. Statistically, just because Bryce Young will start from the beginning. I think the Panthers have done a lot to bolster the team for him. They got some young guys. They got, a couple good free agents. even losing DJ Moore, I don't think they lost a bunch with what they added. And then they got, Chuba Hubbard, which I think is a great running back. I think you give him the ball a lot and you do a lot of play action. So Bryce Young would also be my number one, but since you picked him, I'd say Bijan Robinson's probably your next best bet, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, if anytime you draft a running back in the top 10, you're gonna have to you better give him the ball.
Right.
I mean, although look at the Falcons drafting Kyle Pitts in the first top 5 and then not getting him the ball. So we'll see, but I think he should be. I don't even think he should split carries. He just needs to get the ball right away.
I mean, yeah, that
But
I
they
think
do have Algier.
that's the problem is Algier had a good season, not getting a lot of touches,
Right.
right? And so you can't just omit that. Like you have to say you got to recognize that, and you got to make Bijan prove it. Because what if they split carries and Bijan has a 3 yard per carry?
Oh, not well good.
Yeah, exactly. So now you're like, well, maybe we'll just keep splitting.
Yeah.
But if he comes out and he goes for 4.5 or 5 yards per carry, now you start bulking him, right? And so my honorable mention at this point would be CJ Stroud if he can win this quarterback battle with Davis Mills, because some people think that it's a lock, but it's not. Like Davis Mills is legitimate, still could start for this team. Like until you come out of camp, like you don't know who's starting for them.
Right.
But what I do think is that who does start for them, especially if it's CJ, he has a chance to have a good season. So he's kind of my dark horse in that sense.
Well, mine would be the other quarterback who's so raw, but is going to get thrown into the fire, and that's Richardson.
Right.
They're going to say, here you go, even though he needs probably a year to learn. But with him and Taylor there, he could he could be like a Justin Fields,
Right, right. Yeah, I think he's that the issue I think with Richardson is I do believe he needs a year or two. And maybe that's just me and I don't know because, like nobody knows. But if I'm the coach, I lean on Jonathan Taylor this year, right? And so
Mhm.
that limits Richardson's touches. So to win like a offensive rookie of the year, that's tough with limited touches.
He could just throw 100-yard passes.
Right. He'll just go back. He'll get 300 yards a game, completing 100-yard passes a game. Uh, I mean, I do like what Indianapolis did, or yeah, what they did in the offseason. But they lost Pittman, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So Pittman went to where do you go? Giants? Here, hang on a second. Let me pause for a second. I'll
Wait,
be right
no,
back.
is this up to date?
Let me give a quick pause there. I'll be right back. Zoom. Uh,
Nope. They do have Pittman still. They got Alec Pierce. They got Isaiah McKenzie from Buffalo, a good slot
yeah,
receiver.
that's good. That was a good addition, Isaiah
And
McKenzie.
you forgot, man, your favorite, Josh Downs.
Right, right. Did you get Josh? Who did the Giants get? Why am I thinking Pittman went to the Giants? Got somebody.
Well, they got Waller. Let's see here. Uh,
I swear they got somebody. I don't know why I thought it was
they didn't
Pittman.
really get anyone good.
Well, they lost one of their best receivers to Kansas City.
Yeah, they got that they got Paris Campbell is the
Oh,
Colt.
Paris Campbell is the Colt player they got. Okay,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so it was a Colt. It just wasn't Pittman. It was Paris Campbell. Um, so you kept Pittman, that's great, and then you add Isaiah McKenzie, that's real great, and you
And
have
then
Josh Downs. So yeah, I mean, maybe Richardson does come off pretty well.
that's going to be the Souths are both going to be interesting because I think they're
Hmm.
wide open. Obviously, Jacksonville has the huge edge right now in the AFC South, but you never know with the Souths.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens to Jacksonville. I'm not sold on Trevor Lawrence yet, but I do think they put good weapons around him, which I think really helped. And I think Travis Etienne is going to really come into his own in the next
Mhm.
couple of years. I think he's a better player than Trevor Lawrence. Like if you told me like you got to pick one of these two on your team, I'd take Etienne. So yeah, Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, of course, quarterbacks. I think we both agree on Bryce Young being probably
Mhm.
your offensive impact player. But I do think Bijan Robinson is someone to look at as well. Any like super dark horses that you thought about as you're looking at this?
The only one, and it is like a super dark horse, and just because would be Michael Mayer for the
Right,
Raiders because they trade away Waller. Garoppolo likes his security blankets, and Mayer's like a baby Gronk type thing. Even though now you got the kid known as Baby Gronk. I don't know if you
right,
saw
right.
that story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome.
but yeah,
It's a
I would say
beast.
that would be a huge dark horse, and he's a tight end, so that's hard with.
Well, I think the reason I was looking at the Giants is because Jalen Hyatt went there,
Right.
right? And
Yeah. Hmm.
that's who I thought would be a dark horse because of the loss, of their receivers. And I don't think Slayton is the best receiver in the world. I don't think bringing in Paris Campbell helps you a bunch. And I think Hyatt has a chance with a dysfunctional running game and the fact that you just pissed off Saquon. So, like, what are you really going to get out of him this year? So, Jalen Hyatt was going to be my like dark horse there.
I can see that. That's a good one.
Yeah. So defensive rookies. Like, who do you see? I'll go first on this one. So you went first, last one. Uh, I think the surprise of the draft, in which I think it's probably one of the best drafts of all of defensive players, was Tyree Wilson. Uh, not typically a big fan of Raiders drafts, but I think when you put him opposite of Crosby, you're going to put him in a ton of one-on-one situations. And I think he was undervalued because of his injury. I think physically and the way he plays the game, he's as good as any edge rusher that came out of the draft.
Well, and then he can play inside too, so they
Right.
could.
Because he's a big dude.
Yeah, so they could put out both Crosby, Chandler Jones, and him out there at the
Right.
same time pass rushing. You
Right.
can't double team all of them.
Right. I think the reason I think Tyree Wilson is going to have a good season is because he's going to get a lot of one-on-one situations,
Right.
which that's healthy for a young, good defensive player. But when you have the physical ability that he has, I don't care who you are, you don't want to go one-on-one with a guy like that.
Right.
And so, even though I love Will Anderson, I think my bet for who could have a breakout season will be Tyree Wilson.
Right. Yeah. Because we're not talking about the best, we're talking about who has the best opportunity.
Right, exactly.
And that's why I'm going with Devin Weatherspoon
Oh
going to
yeah,
the Seahawks.
same thing because you're going opposite of a corner who just had an amazing season,
Yeah. And
right?
he just like watching his tape, it was just like, oh my gosh, that dude is a monster out there. And I think he fits with the Legion of Boom type mentality.
Right.
So I think he will make a lot of plays because he'll have a lot of opportunities because they're going to shy away from the other side.
Right. Of course they are, because he had why can't I remember
Well,
his name
is
right
it
now?
Tariq Woolen?
Yeah. Roland. He had 6 interceptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, come on, what are you gonna do? You gonna throw at him now?
Right.
Right. So who are you gonna throw at? You're gonna throw at Witherspoon, which gives him a chance to make plays on the ball, gain confidence. And Witherspoon was close to being my number one. I was back and forth between them two. And I think Witherspoon has the opportunity. I think you're right. I think he could easily be defensive rookie of the year. Um, with that said, I think we're both on the same page there. Any other dark horses, same thing, like any other defensive players that stuck out that maybe didn't make quite as an impression as Witherspoon and
Well, I'm going Homer again because that's what I've been reading a bunch of, and it's Jacorian Bennett. He's
oh,
been
really?
he's been running with the first team for the Raiders,
Right.
and so like we said with Witherspoon, you put someone out there opposite of Nate Hobbs, he's probably going to get targeted a lot, and so that's how you find out how good they are not. So I'm looking at him. He ran like a 4.31, and so
Yeah, no, I could see that. I could see that for sure. My I don't think it's not a huge dark horse, but I think Joey Porter Jr. has a
yeah.
good chance to make an impact immediately. I think he goes in there with that mindset. I mean, you go and get to play where your dad played. There's a different kind of like emotion that goes along with that. I think instantly you have respect that you wouldn't normally have as a rookie from the
Well,
franchise.
he's got a chip on his shoulder too because he should have been a first round pick.
Well, yeah. So now that's the second part, right? Second part is I believe Joey Porter Jr. is as good as any of the top corners. Um, he may have different skills, right? He may not be the same as what I think he does well. I think he sees the ball better than most, and
More of
it's
a
because
ball
I
hawk,
think he's been around football his whole life,
right?
and so I think his intuitiveness, his instinct for the game is really good. And sometimes it's all it takes. Sometimes all it takes is just to have great instinct for the game. So he would be my dark horse when I'd say, on top of where I think Tyree Wilson will probably make the most impact. I think Joey Porter Jr. will be someone to watch for. I do agree with the Witherspoon. I think Witherspoon's great. Um, but I think it's expected for him to be great.
All right.
So NFL rookies, who to watch out for. Don't worry, we'll come back with fantasy stuff in the next, few episodes because that's what we'll get into. Can't wait for football season. Speaking of sports, overall, I think this is one of my favorite topics that we've had. We're going to talk about top 5 sports moments. And what's interesting about this is like defining what's a sports moment too, because as I was looking at a lot of this, you're like, what's truly a moment? What is a moment? But then, like, everything's a moment when you think about it. So then I lumped everything back in because it's like, yeah, everything's a moment. The moment you win, like the moment you step on the field, the moment you do whatever you're doing, right? That's a moment. And there's so many. Like, this could be a topic for like hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well,
I couldn't. I was dropping off sports moments where I was like, no, try to get down to 5. Like it was impossible, right?
right.
So here we go. Top 5 sports moment, HSC podcast. Why don't you lead off, Derek? You're number 5.
Okay, so with mine, I'm a little bit different as these are all ones that I've watched. not being there, but I watched on TV while it happened. So then it gave me that visceral feeling of like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it gave me the memories. And so the first one, even though I hated it, but it was the 1992 Christian Leitner buzzer beater.
Oh man, so good. Yeah, I had such a hard time taking that one off because 1992, what were we doing? Like, Stefan's favorite team was Duke. My favorite team was North Carolina.
Mhm.
Like, we were watching that game. Like, it was crazy.
The throw, I mean, the pass into Leitner was amazing, and then just was like, oh my gosh.
So, for those that don't know, like, just break it down for them.
I think it was
What was
Thomas.
it?
Was it Thomas Hill that was or threw it in?
I think Thomas Hill threw it in. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the lead eight. So and then Carolina was up and they had to go full court with less than there had to be like only like 2 seconds left or something
Yeah,
like
it's like 2.5,
that. Yeah.
2.8, something like that.
And then yeah, Thomas Hill throws a baseball pass to right about the free throw line.
The
Leitner does
other free throw line.
yes, the other free throw line across the whole court. Leitner does a little dribble and then
Catches it with his back to the basket, too.
yes.
Which like if you play basketball, like that's hard to like find your bearings in that short period of time.
Yeah.
Turns
So
around, knocks down the shot, wins the game.
Steve gets upset.
Oh, it's horrible. But at the same time, it was legit. Like that I will never forget that moment.
Right.
Never. And it definitely fits into top sports moments. Uh so I went a little bit different than you did because I had Christian Leitner on there. I took him off the list because there's some things when I look at sports moments, we talked about this earlier, but there's some things that were very iconic and you look back on and like I'm not the biggest baseball fan. I don't watch a ton of baseball. I used to. Like it's not like I don't, never. But today I just don't watch a lot these days. And so I used to be a big baseball fan. Ken Griffey Jr., my favorite baseball player ever. But this is a Hank Aaron moment. So my number five is when Hank Aaron breaks the home run record. And it's not just because I didn't see it, because I have seen it 100 times,
The
right?
guy, the fan is running with him, and
Right. But how many videos have we seen of that as
right.
we grew up? And so I feel like I saw it, even though it was so long ago. But there's so many cool things around Hank Aaron breaking the record, and it's not just maybe it is kind of like, hey, a black guy broke the record, but it's
Right.
also like the record was broken. And it's also like that's an amazing record too. Like it was so many home runs. And so for me that was that's a huge baseball moment. And so being not now the biggest baseball fan, but watching a lot of baseballs growing up, I think that one sticks out the most in my mind.
And he wasn't on steroids when he did it. So
Well, and that's why I dropped off Barry Bonds. Even though Barry Bonds 71 was top, it was in the top, what, 15 or 20. Because that's amazing.
right.
But there is that asterisk, he's always going to have, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, it's too bad because
Uh,
he would have still would have been a Hall of Famer if he wouldn't have done them.
oh, of course he would have. I
He wouldn't
mean,
have
dude,
been the
he was a
greatest ever, but
he was a 40-40 guy,
yeah.
regardless. And so it's like, dude, that's good enough, right? But still, 71's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, but it dropped off, and so that's my number five. So I'll lead off number four here, and this is it's a moment, but it is a full thing. And again, this it's my childhood. It's I've watched so many documentaries and so much stuff on this my whole life, and it's Rumble in the Jungle. It's Muhammad Ali, George Foreman. It just doesn't get any better than that, right? And not only that, it was like it's amazing, and then it's world renowned.
Right.
That's the thing about it. It's like you ask like somebody in Nigeria about Christian Leitner hitting a free throw line in the Elite
Right.
Eight, they're like, "Don't know what you're talking about." You're like, "Rumble in the Jungle." They're like, "Yes." So it's worldwide. It's forever, and it's Muhammad Ali, like the greatest boxer of all time. And then you put in George Foreman in there,
Right.
right?
Young George Foreman.
Right, a young, hard-hitting George Foreman, and at that time, everybody thought George Foreman was going to win. Everybody thought, And so again, you're talking about a whole boxing match, but there's a moment when you say Rumble in the Jungle, step on there. That's number 4 for me.
My number 4 was it's a sad number 4 for because it was a failure, but it's wide right. Buffalo Bills losing the Super Bowl on
Oh
last second field
man.
goal by Scott Norwood.
And then they burnt down his house.
And they made Ace Ventura, who was basically the character was Scott Norwood, right? I mean,
I see where you're going with these though, because I remember that like it's yesterday. Like I can still see it. I can still see him missing the field goal.
right. And that's where it's like you're like, oh my gosh. Even though I feel bad for Norwood because it wasn't even like it is now. Back then, that field goal wasn't easy.
Right? No. Yeah. Yeah, it's a different part in sports, but still, like, geez. And you know what the big thing about that one is? It's because Buffalo, couldn't get the Super Bowl.
And that was the
And that,
first one.
right. But that would have been how different would it have been
Mm-hmm.
if he makes that field goal? Maybe they win 4 in a row instead of
Right.
losing 4 in a row.
Yeah. You never know.
Right. Yeah, that was a big one. Um, but man, did that guy get some serious hate.
Oh, he did. But he got serious love too, because if you watch the 30 for 30 on them,
Yeah.
a lot of the Buffalo fans were like rallied around
Well, they shouldn't have burned down his house then.
it. Did they really burn down? I don't
They
think they burned
really
down.
burned down his house, dude. His house was burnt down.
I don't know about that.
Look,
Might be an urban legend.
it could be, but I heard it, so it must be true.
It was on the internet.
It's on the internet. Brooklyn said that today. She's like, "It was on the internet," and I was like, "Oh, that means it's true." She's like, of course, it's true." That's what our kids are doing these days. They believe in the internet.
Yeah, nothing about Scott Norwood's house burning down.
Well, we'll all find it. I'll show it to you later. What's your number 3?
Number 3 is another football one, and it's just because,
Oh,
for me, just Montana to Taylor,
oh man. Okay.
the driving down the
Yeah.
field, winning the Super Bowl against the Bengals.
What year is that? Is that 95? No.
The Super Bowl 23. I didn't know what it would have been 95 because it was before the Bills Super Bowls.
Dude, this is why we need Wes
89.
here. 89, Jesus. God, we're getting old. Uh, I mean, I remember watching that, and that drive was amazing.
Yeah. I remember that Super Bowl also because it was I remember Tim Krumrie breaking his leg on like the first or second play.
Right.
And then it had been like 30 minutes before the game got back going. And it was
But you felt like Cincinnati had a chance to win that game.
mhm.
But
Like you
that
would
drive,
and
dude,
then
that last drive, that drive was amazing. Like
I
I
just
think
love the quote they talked about when they were in the huddle and Montana is like getting ready to start the drive and he looks over and he goes, "Hey, look, I think I see John Candy over on the sidelines."
right.
It's like so Joe Cool, like
Yeah.
we're gonna go down and win the game, but hey,
But
look, there's John
the
Candy.
throw to Taylor is so on the money. You know, I don't think people understand how hard that throw is to make. You know, throwing that short, skinny post like that. That's tough. It's a tough throw.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a great moment. And if you're a 49ers fan, like you love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my number three, and so back, to what you're talking about, like ones we did see. Mine's 2008 Olympics. It's Michael Phelps. This dude wins 6 medals,
Mhm.
4 golds, 2 silvers in the Olympics. It's historical. It's amazing. Like I don't ever think I've ever want to watch swimming so much in my life because you just want to see him dominate, dude, and just go crazy. And I mean, to this day, I don't think there is a. I mean, there's a lot of good Olympic performances. So I won't say it's the best ever because now you're gonna like talk about people been Olympics for a long time.
Right.
But I will say, in my lifetime, watching that and seeing Michael Phelps, and then obviously his career is amazing after that. But I don't ever recall seeing anybody dominate swimming like that. I mean, you saw Luganis do it in diving, but doing it in swimming, it was amazing.
Well, I hate to be a bearer, but Mark Spitz won 7 gold medals in the
No,
70 Nick
I
for
didn't say
swimming.
he won more than anybody else. I said the way
Oh,
he did it, the way
right.
he dominated was amazing. Um, and you can't argue Mark Spitz is one of the greatest ever.
Well, and it was Phelps won 8 golds in 2008.
Oh, it was 8 golds.
Yes.
Jesus. So then
So
he won more than
he
Spitz.
did beat Spitz by 1 gold. Now they
That's
had
crazy.
relays, but yeah, he had 8 golds.
Oh, yeah, those were individual. You're right. So you're counting the relay golds too. I was talking about individual, but yes, you include his relays. Yeah,
Well, because he was the anchor
he
on
killed
them.
it. He
Yeah.
killed it though. I was talking individual, but yes, when you talk about relays and team ones, yeah, he killed it. Um, but still, it's such an amazing, like, dude, look what this guy did for his Olympic career. You look at Michael Phelps' Olympic medal career, that's nuts.
Yeah, he had, let's see here,
Was it
20,
19?
23 golds,
Jesus.
3 silvers, and 2 bronze in the Olympics. Just the Olympics.
20, 23, 3, and 2.
Yeah.
So this dude won 28 medals. 28. You know how much anybody would just die to have one medal?
Yeah.
This dude won 28. And what was he in 2008? 16?
I don't know.
18? Like he was super young. So for me, that was one of the most amazing Olympic performances that I've ever seen.
Well, and then to put it in perspective, and I know he had issues off of it, but you have to say that Ryan Lochte was the second best swimmer, right?
Right.
And he in his career won 12 medals
Right. Right.
in the Olympics.
Well, and he was an amazing swimmer.
Yeah,
But like you said, Spitz won seven in one Olympics too, you know.
right.
And what Greg Louganis, right? Dude, he won a ton.
Mm,
But you know, the Olympics is hard for me because there's so many great Olympians.
right.
But I just think that like I don't know, my opinion is Michael Phelps did it better than almost anybody. I mean, it's
Yes.
hard to argue. I mean, obviously, it's the most medals. I'm just saying the way he dominated, the way he did things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The only thing I mean, and this was a tandem, but it was the beach volleyball girls. They dominated. Um, Carrie Walsh,
Yeah, Kerry Walsh and trainer.
trainer,
Yeah,
Misty May
yeah,
trainer.
Misty May trainer. Yep. Oh yeah, they
They
killed it.
they dominate, but yeah, Phelps though did it for so many
Right,
years.
but you're talking about them getting one
Three,
medal
yeah,
a year or an Olympics, right?
right, exactly.
Dude's getting eight in
Yes,
one in 1 year. You know, uh, so yeah, I think that's amazing. So that's my number three. What do you got at three?
I did. Three was Montana to Taylor.
Oh, you started three. That's right. Okay. So let's go to two. Oh man. So this is a tough one. I can't believe I have this at two, but I do have it at two, which is Michael Jordan, Utah Jazz, hitting that shot. You know, it's the flu game, obviously, but it's just a shot. I don't think it defines Michael Jordan's career, but I think it just shows, you know, how good he is and like the game he had, given that whether he had, you know, flu or not, who cares, right? He had a great game. He steps up when it's needed to his time. And I think it's just an iconic shot in his career. And so Utah Jazz against what's his name?
Byron Russell.
Byron Russell. Yeah. Just nails that shot. That's my number two moment because I'll never forget that.
All right. I had, I wanted to put that on my list, but then I kept thinking about the one that was more iconic, but I still didn't put it on the list because that wasn't in
Yeah, the Cleveland game.
the Cleveland one was the more
Right.
iconic, but that was in the Eastern Conference Championship. So um
But the
I wanted
Jazz,
to
that was
put
for
one of
the
the
win. That was for the win. It's for the championship.
yeah. That one was a close one. I wanted to, but my number two going to one of my loves, and I know you're like you said aren't big in it right now, but in the 80s, man, for me baseball was king.
Miracle Mets.
No, it's not
Oh
that.
no. Oh man. I thought
It's
you'd go for it.
it's Kurt Gibson's home run
Oh, okay.
off of Dennis Eckersley, off having one leg pretty much because he was injured and walking around the base paths going like this.
Right, right.
Um, for the Dodgers in the 88 World Series. That to me is very iconic. Just him just even going around the base paths the way he did. And winning the game off of Eckersley too.
Yeah, I remember that. You know, that's another I mean, because you know, you picked everything that we know we remember, and that's great because everything we were talking about, it's like I see that. I can still see it in my head. And that was great. But there's so many great baseball moments. So
Right.
baseball was the hardest for me because I didn't want to have too many baseball. So
Right.
I tried to like mix it up a little bit. And just since we're talking about baseball, like let's talk about like Jackie Robinson stepping on the field for the first time.
Yeah.
Like what's more iconic than that?
The Lou Gehrig speech.
Right? Well, there you go. Okay. Well, that's pretty good too. Um, but that's the thing. It's like there's so
Right.
and and that's a great one too. Or Carlton Fisk. I mean, come on,
Mhm.
dude. That it just there's so many, but that's a great one. And again, it's recent enough that we can see it, we recognize it, and I can see. I really thought you'd be going for the Miracle Mets though.
Mm.
Thought you were a Mets fan too. I know you're a Dodgers fan, but
Yeah.
all right, number one, number one.
The 1986 World Series Game 6, the Mets. That is the greatest
Oh, see,
moment,
I knew you were gonna do it.
greatest moment in my sports watching life. Watching the game, I remember, it was 1986, so it's not like the TVs were the greatest.
Right,
Sitting there and watching the game like this and being down, you know, 2 runs in the ninth inning with 2 outs, and they go and win the game.
right. It's amazing,
It's one of the most crazy things that ever happened.
right?
And then there's a great 30 for 30. It's like 6 episodes long about it.
Well, I mean, it's iconic. Like it's in movies. It's in 30 for 30. Like it's in everybody's mind. And the reason I didn't have it in there in mine is because I decided, I didn't have to, I decided to choose only one baseball.
Right.
And it was hard for me not to choose Hank Aaron. But yeah, that's amazing. And I thought you were gonna do it, and you like threw me off. So
It was that will always be my number one.
yeah, I knew it was gonna be, and I was like, "What do you mean it's not?" Yeah, that was funny. And so I'm really disappointed Wes isn't here because my number one, I know Wes would probably agree with, and it's dude, the Dolphins, 72 Dolphins going undefeated and winning the Super Bowl, 17-0. It's what's crazy is the Patriots got there and then they lose. And so you're like, hey, this could be possible.
To a
And then
wild
they
card team,
lose.
right?
Right. But it could have been anybody. But when you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, it's possible to have an undefeated season. And then you lose, you're like, nope.
Well, just
And
like
I just don't believe that any team will ever have an undefeated season again. I just don't believe it.
well, because I think like the most dominating season ever was your Bears,
Right. They
and
still
then
lost the game.
yeah, also the Dolphins, and they like
Right.
it was like they didn't play like themselves at all in that game.
Because there's always going to be that game, right? There's always going to be
Mhm.
that game where, and unfortunately, for the Patriots happened in the, the Super Bowl, but I just, it's one of those things where an undefeated season to me is one of the most amazing things that you can do in sports. There's a lot of amazing things you can do in sports, but undefeated is so hard
Yeah.
because you're literally not losing to anybody. And I wish I could have saw it in person. I've watched it so many times on TV and reenactments and sports and things like that and read about it, but I just don't believe anybody's ever going to do it. So for me, that's got to be my number one sports moment. Going undefeated, winning the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, because it is crazy. The thing, like, I look at also, and not undefeated, but the Warriors beating the regular season record and then
Right,
losing
breaking
the
that Bulls
championship.
record. Right.
What was it? The Mariners getting what was it? One of the top regular seasons and then not making it to the World Series and winning that. It's one of those where if you were great in the regular season, you got to continue to do it. And
Right.
it's
And that's the hard part is you get in the playoffs and it's like how do you continue this through the playoffs?
mhm.
So one of the other ones, and I just want to one of the Tiger Woods 97 Masters. This kid is like 21 years old, coming into a sport, and obviously, a person of color doesn't really make a difference, but it's still iconic. But the way he plays and then goes out and wins by 12 strokes and shoots like 21 under in the Masters, it's like, come on, man. That has to be one of the biggest break-ins to sports because then you know what Tiger Woods did after that, right? Like Tiger
Right.
Woods is the most iconic golfer ever. So that's my honorable mention is Tiger Woods breaking into golf like he did in that Masters tournament and just being like, look, I'm here. What are you going to do about it? That one was amazing to me.
That is amazing. My honorable mention is another disappointment, but it's Buster Douglas upsetting Mike
Oh,
Tyson.
man. That was huge. That was huge.
I mean, Mike Tyson was the man that made people spend $50 on pay-per-views for like 8 seconds.
Right. Right. But like we all knew 100% Mike Tyson was winning that fight.
Yeah.
You would have bet your life on it.
The run that he had, like the pure dominance that Mike Tyson had.
It's
Like,
amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. There's no way. I remember this too, like it was yesterday. I was like, there is no way this dude is gonna be Mike Tyson. No way.
Right.
That's iconic in a different way for sure, but it's still iconic,
Yeah. Because it basically that was the downfall of Tyson.
right? I mean, the true downfall though is when you bite Holyfield's ear.
Yeah.
Like that's when you know you just lost it, dude.
Hmm.
Like it's just over. Because there's nothing more than like true, like I can't win. I can't do anything
Inspiration.
else.
Right.
Desperation, but to just bite your ear, dude. That's what you do when you can't win.
Yep.
So, but the Buster Douglas was crazy. Um, the second one I do want to mention before we move on next topic was the Wilt 100-point game. That one was tough because I have slight reservations about rules and things like that, what were happening back then. But still,
And
come
was it
on, man.
televised at all? Have we even? There's
Yeah,
no.
he's like, can you prove it? Even if you can't prove it, like it happened because people would come out. But the goaltending rules were different, which changed the game, right?
Mhm.
But the fact that you score 800 in a game, that's
That's
crazy.
crazy. Yes.
That's crazy. So
No
the
3-point line, nothing like
right,
that. So,
the Wilt 100 was close for me. And well, and then of course Jackie Robinson was close for me. Um, and that's crazy. Like that's iconic, right? First time,
Mhm.
and because it's first time for everything. So that was great. One of the hardest topics I think we ever covered. So that was a tough one. And so let's get back into movies because we always got some movies in there for you too, for you guys that aren't the biggest sports fans.
And
I'm
this
gonna
one's
give you
for the ladies.
we'll give you some movie stuff. And I I mean it might be for the ladies, but I love a good rom-com.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do romantic comedies top five. Surprisingly, a very hard topic.
Well, for me, it was hard because I thought of movies that I knew were comedies that had like a whole romance to it too. And then I looked it up on IMDb and it didn't qualify as a
Right.
romantic comedy.
So let's give the audience a caveat here as we use IMDb as our source. And so if it's not romance comedy, we can't use it.
Yeah.
Right. So for anybody listening, to just understand it's IMDb's fault, not ours. So but yeah, so if it's not, and I had to take a few off my list the same way, because what I did was I made a list and then I went to IMDb and I vetted that list and I had to remove a bunch
Yep.
and then ended up with a still a big list, which maybe means I watched too many romantic comedies. Uh, but regardless, let's get into HSC Podcast top five rom coms. I'll go first. Number five, rom coms. Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore, 50 First Dates. What makes that movie great? It is funny. I think Sean Austin plays a good part in there, and anything Dan Aykroyd is in. I'm a fan of. I think he plays a great doctor in that one, and it's actually one of those movies that I think Adam Sandler plays a great part. I just love the beginning of it when he's playing the single dude, and then it turns into a great romantic comedy. So gotta love it. 51st Dates, number five.
I'm going with, and so preface, I didn't put any older movies. I mean, old as in older than me movies on here. And there is a ton that it could have been.
Right.
Uh, but I'm like 80s and on for most of
Right.
mine.
I did the same thing.
And so my number five is a teen romantic comedy cult classic, 16 Candles.
Of course it is.
Man,
It's
it's
the
John.
donger.
Yeah.
I love the
John
donger.
Hughes. You had the geek, Anthony
Anthony
Michael
Michael Hall,
Hall.
of course.
Yeah. Yeah. John Cusack is one of
Molly.
the geeks too. Joan Cusack, and you had Molly Ringwald going after the stud of the school who was with the pretty girl who had no
Right.
personality.
The prom queen.
Yeah.
Uh I tried so Holly's never seen this movie and I try to explain to her and not to ruin the movie for you who haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, it's your own fault. It's so awesome that at the end or at the movie, Michael Anthony Hall ends up being with going
Right.
home with
The
the
prom
prom
queen.
queen. What's his name's girl? That's it's just great. It's
Jake.
such a good
Jake
movie, Jake.
Ryan.
Yeah, Jake Ryan, and also Molly Ringwald is the Julia Roberts of the '80s, right? Like she's the
Well,
rom com,
she was the original choice for Pretty Woman.
right?
So it's like, but
That was
yes.
that was probably the change, right? That was a changing of the guard.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
Yeah. And you gotta love it, right?
Yeah.
So I won't even. I'm gonna give my number 4 first again because there's no reason not to, because it's 16 Candles. And it's just hilarious. Like it's so good. And they have the Asian guy, the donger, no, like you're
Long
missing
duck
out.
dong.
Long duck dong. And I mean it's 80s, it's good, and I have to have something from back then in my list. Because there's other ones that I took off that are older that I think are great, but I don't think they get much better than this. Because John Cusack and Michael Anthony Hall in this movie, like they're not even the stars, right?
Right.
So you got these incredible young actors who become very good actors later in their career, making this movie so good.
Mm-hmm. And then Joan Cusack too. She was
Right. And well, yeah. And well, I mean, not a huge fan of her, but the part she plays fits her so well.
yeah.
But still, like I don't think you get much better than 16 Candles. So the reason I'm gonna do it now is because you just did it. Might as well get it out of the way. So give us your 4.
My 4 is gonna be one that you'll probably go, what? And that is Chasing Amy.
Oh, I knew you were gonna be chasing Amy. I 100% knew you were gonna be chasing Amy, which I think is a great movie. I love it.
But it's like
It's
perfect for nowadays too.
Yeah, if I think it would have been better released now, or more popular, not better, more
Right.
popular now, right? Because most you ask 75% of people, even our age, if they've seen Chasing Amy, they haven't.
No.
They haven't.
No. It's probably Kevin
So
Smith's best.
yeah, oh, easily is best. But it doesn't have all the aspects of a rom com, but it has enough to make it a rom com.
Right.
But it
It
is
doesn't have
his
your happy ending. It doesn't
right,
have
right. It's a different kind of rom com.
right.
It's easily his best script, though. Best script he's ever
Yes.
written. Best script he's ever written. And for some reason, when I saw that on there, I was like, I can't classify that as a rom com, but I think Derek will.
Hey, IMDb does.
Right. That's what I said. I saw the because I had to filter the list, right? I was like, I gotta make sure everything I have is on the list. I'm like, oh, of course, this is there. And then
Well,
if you got True Romance on there too, like
it's not a rom com. I checked IMDb doesn't have it as a rom com, or
okay.
else it would have been on there.
So great movie, qualifies per IMDb. Most people haven't seen it. If you're listening, you have to watch it. Awesome movie.
It's back when indie films were big and
Right,
had
right.
great.
Well, and it was good. It was a good indie, well done. You're not going to see a lot of crazy cinematography, but you're going to see a well written script.
Right.
So 3 will just go back to you because I went back to back. So
Okay. So now here's my Adam Sandler Drew Barrymore movie, and that is The
Wedding
Wedding
Singer,
Singer.
yeah, no, I
Yes.
knew it. I knew it. So I couldn't have 2 Adam Sandlers on.
Right.
So that's why I had to choose between the 2. There was a lot of debate in the household over it. But go ahead, Wedding Singer. Tell
Well,
us
The
about it.
Wedding Singer like knocks it out of the park for the comedy part. And
Mhm.
then and they get the
So
romance.
good.
I mean, just the like having like checking out for wedding, like the Wedding Singers, and you have John Lovitz up there, and it's like he's insane. And then you end
Steve
it with
Buscemi,
Steve Buscemi being,
dude. And
and then
then
like on
you
the
actually
airplane.
have, yeah, dude, right?
Yeah,
You,
Billy
you
Idol on the
you're gonna
airplane.
put Billy Idol in the movie,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it is so good. It's not it's not as typical of a rom-com as 51st Dates.
right,
And I couldn't have two Adam Sandlers on there.
right.
So I had to go for the more like sappy, you
Well,
know.
this one's sappy though too, because you do have it where he's pining over the girl and
Right, right.
she's getting married to someone
Oh,
else.
so funny. So good. Oh man, I love Wedding Singer.
The old lady singing Rapper's Delight.
Oh
And
yeah. It's a hip, hop, hip it, hip it. It's so good. It is so good. And dude, I don't of all the people we just talked about, my favorite part is the boyfriend who is like the Don Johnson Miami Vice
yeah.
dude. It's so good. It's so good.
He's he has like a recurring guest appearances on the TV show The Rookie, and
Right.
he's so hilarious on that
So
show.
funny, dude. So the only reason, and it was tough again because I only wanted to have one Adam Sandler, but Sean Austin and Dan Aykroyd in 51st Dates are so funny. Like Sean Austin playing the dude, the kid, he's working out and then he gets caught for steroids. He's like, I love spamming Reese's. And it's like so funny.
Hey, no one touches Billy Idol.
That was a tough one. So I had to choose between those two, and I agree with you 100%. We'll put that up there. So number two
Did you do your
for
three?
oh no, my number three. Yeah, yeah, we're on number three. So my number three could easily be number one if it had more of the rom of the rom com. um, but there is enough romantic to call it a rom com for IMDb, and it's something about Mary because you just don't get any better. One of my favorite movies of all time. Favorite movies of all time. It's so good. Um, I'm not a gigantic Ben Stiller fan. I do like him. Like he's not someone I would sit there and watch all day every day unless it's this movie because it's just so good from start to finish. The storyline's great. And then you throw Brett Favre in there. Come on, dude. Like it's so
What the
funny.
hell is Brett Favre doing here?
Yeah, what's else Brett Favre doing here? Um,
Matt Dillon is great in this.
oh God, he's so good. Like I mean, it's such a good. It's so funny that it almost pushes too far into the comedy range, which is why I put it at three. Like I said, it could be at number one, but it makes me laugh 95% of the time. And 5% of the time it's like, oh, that's romantic. So uh I'm putting something about Mary at three.
Well, to do what we had to do before, I'll start with two because my two is There's Something About Mary.
Oh, Jesus. That's funny.
How did the Franks get ahead of the Baines?
It's so funny. Oh, but it's so much of a comedy, though.
It is, but it is about he's trying to get back with the girl
Right,
from,
right. There's romance to it, right?
and the whole Chris Elliott in that movie. Oh,
Oh, he's good. No, I don't even know what the guy's name is, dude. But the dude that plays Tucker, it's like
oh
he's
yes, he's
awesome.
awesome. Yeah, I don't know Tucker, but yeah.
Like he nailed that role. Like you can't play the crippled architect pizza dude stalker better than he can.
All right. Yeah, that was the whole thing is every single cast member was perfect for their role.
Right. Yeah.
Magda, I mean,
It's great. Yeah, that could, like I said, could easily be number one.
it would have
So
been
that's
my
your
number one, but I put more of a romantic movie at one. But
so that's your two.
yep.
So two, you I mean, this might not even be in your top 10, but I have Last Holiday. If you haven't seen Last Holiday, it's Queen Latifah. She has like a think she has like a viral sickness, but it's a funny movie. She falls in love. It's such a good movie. And I hate to admit it, but it makes me cry every time. Sad movie, but it's about like what you should do with your life and how you should live your life. Like there is no tomorrow because you just don't know what tomorrow is. And it's got oh geez, why did I just forget his name?
LL Cool J.
LL Cool J. It's got LL Cool J in it, dude. He is her love. Uh, and so it's great, dude. It's such a good movie. And it's just one of those movies. It's a feel good movie, but it's funny, it's romantic, and it has a mix and a balance of both. But it will pull at your heartstrings, and you'll want to watch it over and over and over again. It's great. Number one. Here we go. I'll lead off. It's Wedding Crashers,
Huh?
and it is the funniest romantic comedy that exists because it truly has a romantic like into it, like that's what it's ultimately about. But now you have Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, and let me tell you right now, Vince Vaughn has to be one of the funniest dudes ever. When he gets into his roles and when he gets into some of his lines, it's so good. When he starts doing his like talking about dating and then oh my god, it's that movie. I could watch that movie a million times and it will still be funny every time and it'll still at the end or not even at the end, like halfway through, turn into a romantic movie because it's comedy, it's romantic. Nothing better than Vince Vaughn talking about motorboating.
I'd still
What's
put
her name? Uh,
Isla Fisher.
no, the redhead. No, the
That's
older redhead woman.
oh, Jane Seymour.
Jane Seymour, dude. It's so funny. And then you got Christopher Walken. Oh, dude, it's so good, dude.
Well, the 5 minutes that Will Ferrell is in it.
Oh, and Will Ferrell. Oh, dude, don't. Yeah, and that you can't tell me that that 5-10 minutes of the movie because it's just funny on its own. Like Will Ferrell comes in the movie as Chaz for 5-10 minutes, dude. It's hilarious. Like
Where's the meatloaf?
the whole movie's funny. It's got romance to it. It's got love. It's got everything you want to have, and it's a movie you can watch over and over and over again and never get tired of it,
Well, and then I think isn't it really what Bradley Cooper got his start from?
dude. And I don't care what people think about Bradley Cooper, but I love him. And I think in that movie, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's the complete prick.
His name is Sack, not Zach. Sack. Like your name's Sack. So it's just great. That's my number one. That's enough selling it. What do you got?
Well, my number one is from the '80s. It's more romance than comedy, but it does have tons of comedy in it. It's Cameron Crowe, John Cusack movie. Say anything.
Say any. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. It's probably one of the most iconic love movies ever.
Like, I gave her my heart. She gave me a pen.
All
Stuff
right.
like, I mean, and he talks about the kickboxing, the sport of the future, and
Yeah, I mean, there is less funny than romance, but that's the point. Like rom-coms are you have a little of both, you have a lot of both, you got a good medium of both. But Say Anything is probably one of the most iconic movies ever.
yeah, just for the boombox.
Right. But when you just talk about like this genre, right? When we
Right.
talk about what we're talking about, anybody born in the 80s or 70s or previous will know that this is one of the most iconic movies.
Right.
I almost had I almost had Serendipity on there because I love John Cusack, dude.
Well, I almost because I think it counts. The other Cusack one I was thinking of. No, it doesn't count. Never mind. It was Gross Point Blank, but it doesn't count.
Yeah.
I am completely surprised, and maybe it would have been West. No Pretty Woman on a top five.
I had Pretty Woman close, but so here if I don't mention this, I'll be pissed off. I took off my big fat Greek wedding, which I do like. Don't get me wrong. I like the movie. I think it's a great movie. Uh, and she was mad I took that off. But when you talk about Julia Roberts, the other movie I took off, which is to this day still one of my favorite movies, and I love it, is My Best Friend's Wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so good. And so I took that one off too. And that's why this category was so hard.
Right. Well, because I had two older movies on
Oh,
mine. One was Breakfast at Tiffany's,
yep.
and then the other, Steve, this one's probably near and dear to your heart, and I just loved was Pillow Talk.
Oh, I love Pillow Talk, dude. You know how many times I've seen Pillow Talk, dude? You have no idea. In black and white, just forever. Dude, I saw that movie so many times. And what's crazy is like back then, that was like a questionable movie, you know. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, and you watch it. I must have watched Pillow Talk when I was a kid 100 times. So good. But you know what I took off that was really tough was Can't Buy Me Love. Do you remember that, dude? You
Oh,
remember
I love that
good
movie.
remember how good Can't Buy Me Love was?
Patrick Dempsey, man.
Oh, dude, it was so good. Like they don't make movies like that anymore.
Well, they tried to. Tried to remake it.
Well, yeah, whatever they want to try to do. So that was great. This was a tough category. Um,
We could have just done top 80s rom coms too. Or,
right. Like you could have you could definitely break it down. Uh, which is why I had to throw in uh 16 Candles, of course, right? Because you got to have one from back then. But really, when you look at it, like the 90s was the best time. Like the 90s was the best time for rom-coms. Like they were killing it. They were doing a good job in the 90s.
well, one is I want to see what year it came out, but for me, the other one that was super iconic was 1989 when Harry Met Sally.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that got I mean, ratings wise, that kills it. Which I mean, I like the movie. I'm not a huge Billy Crystal fan. Love Meg Ryan. Love Meg Ryan. So I mean, I'll definitely like throw it in there.
It is an odd combination because I don't wouldn't see Billy Crystal with a Meg Ryan.
No, because you know who I like? I like Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
Like, give me some You Got Mail, dude. Give me some Sleepless in Seattle, right? I mean, those movies, like, I can get on board with.
I like Meg Ryan with Anthony Edwards. Give me some Top Gun.
Yeah, give me some Top Gun. Oh, she's so good in Top Gun. I love her in Top Gun. Uh, so yeah, there were so many movies. It's really hard to pick.
Oh my gosh, we're forgetting the most important Tom Hanks Meg Ryan movie. And if Wes was here, he would tell you. It's Joe versus the volcano.
Joe versus the volcano.
Let me see, make sure that's rom com. Boom.
Yep, that was one of the early movies I saw in theaters. I was really young when I saw that.
You'd have been 12.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing that. I was actually in Canada. I saw that at Whistler, Blackcomb when I was
Oh,
skiing.
nice.
That was cool. Uh, Great topic though. Like this was a hard one. And so I'm glad we got to explore rom-coms. That was fun. All right, well, we'll wrap it up here. You guys have any comments, questions? You want to hear a new top five? Love to hear it. Because eventually we'll run a top five, so we need your comments.
And we'll just have to go down every actor and do top five.
Yeah. Well, Holly already told me that's what she wants us to do next. She's like, you have too many on your list. Like, break it down by actor. So we're always gonna have a sports for you. We're always gonna have a movie,
Movie
some type of movie,
or TV or something.
TV, something for you. So appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like. If you're listening on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, appreciate you guys listening. We'll see you next time.